The girl who thought she was ugly had been seen by human eyes, and those eyes did not see a monster. They saw something else, something beautiful, the arrival of humans. The alien who thought she was ugly, until a human saw her beauty. HFY story. The morning after the ship landed, the world felt different. The sun rose over the glowing forests, but the birds did not sing. Even the wind seemed quieter, as if the planet itself waited. For the first time in centuries, outsiders had come, and nothing would be the same again. The people of Lyra's village gathered near the river, whispering. Some were afraid, some were angry, and some were curious. The elders stood tall, warning that humans brought danger. They will take what they want and leave us broken, one elder said. But the young ones, with restless hearts, dreamed of adventure. Maybe they bring knowledge. Maybe they bring hope. They murmured. Lyra stayed apart, silent, her mind lost in the memory of last night. She remembered the humans' eyes, the way they had looked at her. Not like she was ugly, not like she was cursed. It was as if he saw her, really saw her. That thought burned inside her like a secret flame. Meanwhile, in the forest, the human explorers worked. Their machines hummed as they collected soil, water, and air samples. Strange lights blinked on their devices, sending messages to the ship above. The humans spoke to one another in sharp, quick voices. The sound carried through the trees, strange but strong. Every word felt heavy with purpose. The leader of the humans, Captain Daniel, was different from the others. He walked slower, he looked deeper, he noticed things others ignored. While his team focused on the land, Daniel's eyes often wandered to the shadows. It was there he had seen her, the alien girl with wide eyes and trembling hands. Most would dismiss her as nothing, but not him. There had been something in her face, something raw and fragile, a kind of beauty he could not explain. The aliens of the village sent scouts to watch the humans. They hid behind trees and stones, whispering about the strange visitors. Look at their weapons, their armor, their fire. One scout said, "They are weak without their machines," another replied. But none dared to step closer. Fear chained their feet. Lyra, however, could not stay away. Her heart pulled her back to the forest. Every step was heavy with fear, yet stronger was the curiosity inside her. She wanted to know why the human had smiled at her. She wanted to know if it had been real. She wanted to believe she was more than the ugly girl her people said she was. That day, she reached the edge of the clearing where the humans worked. She crouched low behind the roots of an ancient tree, her breath held. The humans were closer than ever, and she could see their faces, their hands, their movements. They looked so different, so fragile compared to her people. Yet they moved with purpose, with confidence. Every action seemed important, as if they were masters of their world. She felt small watching them, but she also felt something else, wonder. Then it happened. Captain Daniel turned his head, and his eyes locked on hers again. She froze, her chest tight, her heart hammering. He did not shout. He did not raise a weapon. Instead, he lifted one hand slowly, his palm open. A gesture of peace, a silent greeting. It was the first time a human and her kind had ever reached for each other. Lyra's breath shook as she stared. She wanted to run, but her feet stayed. Her hands trembled as she lifted her own, slowly, cautiously. The distance between them was wide, but in that moment, it felt smaller. The world grew silent. The forest held its breath. An alien girl and a human captain looked at each other, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as beings who wanted to understand. But then a voice shattered the moment. "Stay back," shouted one of the elders from the trees. Dozens of villagers rushed forward, spears in hand, their eyes full of fear. The humans reacted instantly, raising their weapons, red lights glowing at the ends. For a heartbeat, time stopped. It was the edge of chaos, the thin line between peace and war. Lyra gasped, trapped between two worlds. On one side, her people saw her as flawed and unworthy. On the other, the humans who carried fire and steel. And in the middle stood Daniel, his hands still raised, his eyes still calm. He was not afraid, not angry, only steady, as if he had already made a choice, as if he believed in something no one else could see. Lyra's heart pounded as she realized the truth. The arrival of humans was not just the beginning of contact. It was the beginning of her own story. The moment that would test her, change her, and decide who she truly was. The hook, the alien who thought she was ugly, until a human saw her beauty. HFY story. The night sky above the alien world was painted in strange colors. Shades of green and violet stretched like rivers across the heavens, glowing softly. It was a world filled with beauty, but not everyone could see beauty in themselves. Her name was Lyra. She was young, curious, and different. In her village, she was known not for her heart or her mind, but for her face. The others whispered when she passed by. They said her skin glowed too faintly, her eyes were too wide, her hair too dull. Among her people, perfection was worshipped, and those who looked different were forgotten. Lyra carried those whispers like heavy stones inside her. Every glance felt like a blade, every laugh a reminder that she did not belong. She tried to smile sometimes, but the smile never lasted. When she looked at her reflection in the clear pools of water, she saw only flaws. Her heart whispered a truth she hated. I am ugly. Yet deep inside her, there was a fire. She dreamed of the stars. She dreamed of leaving her world, flying far away, finding a place where no one would call her broken. But dreams are fragile when the world around you crushes them every day. So Lyra stayed silent, keeping her heart locked away. One evening, when the twin moons rose high and bathed the land in silver light, she stood on a cliff alone. Below her stretched the forests, glowing faintly with alien flowers that pulsed like lanterns. The wind carried the sound of creatures singing in the distance. It was beautiful, yet her chest felt heavy. Why am I like this? She whispered, her voice shaking. No one answered, only the wind and the stars above. But change was coming. Far beyond the sky, something moved. A light brighter than any star flickered, then grew larger. The people in her village gasped when they saw it. It was not a star, not a comet, but a ship from the sky, from the unknown. Humans, they whispered. Stories of humans had reached their world through the oldest songs, but no one had ever seen them. They were strange, different, dangerous, the elders warned, but also powerful, bold, and curious. Now, for the first time, a human ship was landing on their soil. Lyra's heart pounded. She hid behind the edge of the cliff, watching as the light descended into the forest. The ship broke through the clouds with a roar of fire and smoke. Trees bent beneath its landing, and the earth shook as if the world itself held its breath. She could not move her eyes away. Fear and wonder fought inside her. What did these humans look like? Were they monsters or something else? Her people gathered at a distance, afraid but curious. The elders ordered everyone to stay away, to remain unseen. But Lyra, with her restless heart, could not obey. Something inside her whispered, go. She felt a pull, as if the stars themselves were calling her closer. That night, as the village slept, Lyra walked into the forest alone. The air smelled of smoke and metal, so different from the sweet scent of glowing flowers. Her feet sank into the soft moss, and her heart raced with every step. She moved closer, closer, until she saw the ship. It was enormous, taller than the trees, with a surface of shining steel. Strange lights blinked along its side, and a ramp stretched down into the earth. She hid behind a fallen tree, her eyes wide. And then she saw them. The humans. They stepped out in suits of armor, their faces hidden at first behind glass. Their voices echoed in strange tones, not like her people's songs, but sharp and heavy. She watched them set up strange devices, scanning the soil, the air, the sky. Her breath caught when one of them removed his helmet, revealing his face. He looked so different. His skin pale, his hair short and dark, his eyes sharp and searching. Not monstrous, not perfect, but something else entirely. For the first time, Lyra felt something she could not name. Curiosity mixed with fear, a spark that lit inside her chest. But then his eyes turned. He looked directly toward the shadows where she hid. Her heart froze, her hands trembled. Had he seen her? Would he chase her away like the others did? The human tilted his head slightly, as if trying to understand what he saw. For a long moment, he did not move, only watched the shadows. Then, to her shock, a small smile touched his lips. It was not cruel, not mocking, but gentle, warm, like the light of the moons above. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. No one had ever looked at her that way before. Not in her village, not in her entire life. Her people saw ugliness, but this human's eyes told a different story. A story she could not yet believe. The night was silent except for the sound of the forest and the beating of her heart. In that moment, something began, something that would change Lyra's life forever. First contact, the alien who thought she was ugly, until a human saw her beauty. HFY story. The clearing burned with silence. Humans stood with weapons raised, their strange machines glowing red. The villagers gripped their spears tight, their voices sharp with anger and fear. Between them, Lyra froze, caught like a shadow between fire and storm. Captain Daniel did not lower his hand. His palm remained open, steady, unshaken. His voice was calm when he spoke, though she could not understand his words. It was the sound that mattered, slow, gentle, patient, a tone that carried no threat, only peace. The villagers hissed, warning her to step back. One elder shouted, "Lyra, do not touch the monster." Her heart twisted, as it always did when they spoke her name like a curse. But this time, she did not move. She did not step away. Instead, her eyes stayed locked on Daniel's. The memory of his smile burned inside her. It was not the smile of an enemy, nor the cruel laugh of her people. It was something else, a bridge, fragile but real. Her breath shook as she raised her trembling hand, slowly, carefully. Her fingers stretched toward him, not to touch, but to answer. The humans behind Daniel whispered nervously. "Captain, it's dangerous," one said. "We don't know what she wants," another warned. But Daniel's eyes never left Lyra's. He shook his head, lowering his weapon. The glow faded, and the clearing softened. Lyra's people gasped in shock. "No, you will not deceive her," the elder roared. But Lyra felt something break inside her. For the first time, she wanted to defy them. For the first time, she wanted to believe someone else's eyes instead of their words. Her hand stopped in the air, only halfway to his, the distance between them still wide. But Daniel nodded, a slow gesture of respect. He touched his chest, then pointed to her. And then he spoke one clear word. "Friend." The sound was strange, heavy, but she understood. The meaning slid into her heart like light into darkness. Friend. Not ugly, not cursed, not flawed. Friend. Her lips parted, and without thinking, she whispered back in her own tongue. Friend. The villagers stirred, confused and angry. But the word felt like fire on her tongue, a fire she did not want to put out. The tension broke when a sudden noise filled the forest. A deep, growling roar that shook the ground. The trees trembled as a massive beast stepped from the shadows. Its skin was plated like stone, its eyes burning like hot coals. It had been drawn by the sound and fire of the ship. Now it was hungry. The humans turned, weapons raised, their shouts sharp. The villagers panicked, spears lifting. The beast charged, its jaws opening wide. Lyra's scream cut through the air, sharp and desperate. Without thinking, she ran forward, her body moving before her mind. The villagers shouted her name. The humans yelled warnings. But Daniel moved too, his body fast, his eyes locked on hers. In the chaos, their paths crossed. For the first time, they stood side by side, not as strangers, but as allies. The beast lunged. Daniel fired his weapon, a burst of red light striking the monster's shoulder. It roared in pain, but did not fall. Lyra grabbed a spear from the ground, her hands shaking. She had never been brave, never been strong, but in that moment, she could not let the human stand alone. With a cry, she thrust the spear at the beast's leg. It pierced just enough to slow it. Daniel shouted, firing again, the light burning deeper into its chest. The monster collapsed with a final, terrible roar. The ground shook, and then it was over. Silence followed. The villagers stared in disbelief. The humans lowered their weapons, their eyes wide at what they had seen. And in the center of the clearing, Lyra stood with her chest heaving, her hands still gripping the broken spear, her body trembling with fear and fire. Daniel turned to her, his face covered in sweat, his chest rising and falling. And then, slowly, he smiled again, not because she had been perfect, but because she had been brave. He touched his chest once more and said the word again. Friend. This time, Lyra did not hesitate. Her voice was louder, clearer, as she answered. Friend. The villagers looked at her with new eyes. The humans watched her with respect. And Lyra, for the first time in her life, felt something she had never known before. She felt seen. She felt strong. And though she did not yet believe she was beautiful, she felt closer to it than ever before. The secret bond, the alien who thought she was ugly, until a human saw her beauty HFY story. After the beast was slain, the forest slowly grew quiet again. The smell of smoke and blood lingered in the air. The humans returned to their ship with caution, and the villagers retreated to their homes in silence. Only whispers followed them, whispers of what they had seen. An alien girl standing with a human, fighting together. For the first time, Lyra was no longer invisible. But being noticed was not the same as being accepted. The elders scolded her harshly, warning that her foolishness would bring ruin to them all. You let the outsider touch your mind, one spat. You will curse us with their fire, another hissed. But Lyra did not answer. Her heart was too full of the words she had learned. Friend. That night, while the village slept, Lyra could not rest. She kept hearing his voice in her memory, the way he had spoken, the way he had looked at her, different from everyone else, different from her own people, as if her flaws were not curses, but simply part of her. The thought made her chest ache in a way she had never felt before. She left the village quietly and walked back into the forest. The moonlight painted her path in silver. When she reached the clearing, the humans were there, setting up strange devices around the ship. Her heart raced as she hid behind the roots of a great tree. But then she heard it, his voice calling softly, Lyra. She froze. How did he know her name? And then she remembered the elders had shouted it in anger during the standoff. He must have remembered. The sound of her name in his voice felt strange, warm, like a secret she had never been allowed to keep. Daniel stepped forward from the light of the ship, holding something small in his hands, a metal object that glowed faintly. He crouched down and placed it on the ground, then stepped back. Lyra crept closer, her eyes fixed on the object. It was a small box, no larger than her palm. When she touched it, it hummed softly, and then to her shock, it spoke. Not in his tongue, but in hers. Hello, the box said. Her breath caught, and her hand shook. A translator, she realized. The humans had built a voice for her, a bridge between their worlds. Daniel smiled when he saw her reaction, and he pointed at his chest. Daniel, he said. The box repeated the word in her language. Lyra's lips trembled, but she whispered back, Lyra. The box carried her voice into his tongue. For the first time, they understood each other. They sat together at the edge of the clearing, speaking in broken sentences. She told him of the glowing forests, the singing birds, the two moons that guided the seasons. He told her of Earth, of oceans larger than her world's deserts, of cities that touched the clouds. She listened with wide eyes, each word painting pictures she had never imagined. And when she spoke, he listened as if her voice was the most important sound in the universe. But the bond they built was fragile, and danger grew around it. The humans worried about being watched. The villagers whispered about betrayal. If anyone discovered their meetings, the fragile peace would shatter. So they met in secret, night after night, in a forest where only the stars could see. Sometimes they spoke with words, sometimes only with silence. Daniel showed her how to write letters in his language. She traced the shapes with her fingers on the soft earth, laughing when she made mistakes. He listened when she told him her people called her ugly. His eyes grew dark, and he shook his head firmly. "No," he said, the translator echoing his voice. "You are not ugly, Lyra." Her chest tightened. No one had ever said those words to her before. Not once in her life. She wanted to believe him, but fear clung to her heart like chains. "What if you only say that because you do not know what beauty means here?" she asked. Daniel's voice was steady, his gaze unshaken. "Beauty is not what others say it is," he replied. "Beauty is what I see when I look at you." Her eyes filled with tears she did not understand. She turned away quickly, ashamed of the heat in her face. But for the first time, the word ugly did not feel so heavy. For the first time, she wondered if it had never been true at all. Still, danger lingered. The villagers grew restless, suspicious of her absences. The humans argued among themselves, warning that contact could end in war. But under the watchful moons, Lyra and Daniel's bond grew stronger. A secret flame in the shadows, fragile yet bright. Neither knew how long it could last, but neither wanted to let it go, because in each other they had found something rare. Not just a friend, but a reflection of the truth they both needed. That even in the vast universe, no one was truly worthless. And sometimes, the most broken soul could be the most beautiful of all. The danger. The alien who thought she was ugly. Until a human saw her beauty. HFY story. The nights of secret meetings could not last forever. Whispers grew louder in the village. Lyra's absences were noticed. Her silence became suspicious. The elders watched her with narrow eyes. They remembered the way she had stood beside the human, the way she had lifted her hand when he did. To them, this was betrayal. One evening, as the moons climbed the sky, Lyra slipped into the forest once more. Her heart raced with both fear and hope. Would Daniel be waiting for her? Would his smile ease the weight she carried? She reached the clearing, and yes, he was there. But tonight his face was troubled, his voice low. "Danger," the translator whispered in her tongue. "Your people do not trust. My people do not trust." Lyra's chest tightened. "What do you mean?" she asked. Daniel's eyes scanned the trees, his hand resting near his weapon, though he did not raise it. "There are those among your people who plan to strike first," he said, "and there are those among mine who believe we must fight back." His gaze softened as it met hers. "If this happens, there will be no peace." Lyra trembled. She had always felt like an outcast, unwanted, ugly, but now she carried something heavier. The weight of two worlds. She wanted to scream that she was not strong enough, not brave enough. But Daniel's eyes told her she was. That night, as they parted, shadows moved through the forest. Unseen by Lyra, unseen by Daniel. A pair of villagers had followed her, watching every step. They saw her speak with a human, saw her laugh softly, saw her stand too close. They turned back to the village with anger in their hearts. By morning, the whole village knew. The elders called a gathering. Their voices thundered across the square. "This girl has betrayed us," they shouted. "She walks with the outsiders. She shares our secrets. She will bring ruin to us all." The villagers muttered, their eyes filled with fear and anger. Lyra stood alone in the center, her hands trembling. She wanted to explain, but the words died in her throat. Every face around her was hard, cold, unkind. "Leave her," one elder spat. "She is no longer one of us." The villagers turned away, and Lyra felt the ground vanish beneath her. She had always been unwanted, but now she was truly alone. In the forest, the humans also argued. Some wanted to leave, warning that the aliens were hostile. Others wanted to strike first to secure the planet. Daniel stood firm against them. "No," he said, his voice sharp. We are not conquerors. We are explorers. We will not fire the first shot. But even among his own, there were whispers of doubt. He knew not all would listen. The danger grew closer with each hour. That night, Lyra returned to the forest, though her heart was heavy with shame. Daniel saw her broken face and understood without words. "They cast you out," he said softly. She nodded, her eyes full of tears. "I have nowhere," she whispered. Daniel shook his head, stepping closer. "You have here," he said, touching his chest, then pointing to her. "You are not alone." But before comfort could settle, the forest erupted with light. Shouts rang out, and dozens of villagers appeared, spears raised high. Behind them, shadows of human soldiers pushed through the trees, weapons glowing. Both sides had come in secret, both sides ready for war. And in the middle stood Lyra and Daniel. The air burned with tension. One mistake, one spark, and blood would fall. The elders pointed at Lyra, their voices sharp. "See, she stands with them. She is proof of their poison." Human soldiers lifted their weapons higher. "Captain, move away from the alien," one shouted. Daniel did not move. Instead, he stepped in front of Lyra, his body a shield. "No," he said, his voice firm. "There will be no blood here." But it was too late. An arrow of fire shot from the villagers, slicing past Daniel's shoulder. The humans reacted. A warning blast of red light burned the earth. Screams filled the clearing. Chaos erupted. The first shot had been fired. Lyra's heart thundered as she clung to Daniel. This was the danger he had warned of. The fragile bridge between their worlds was crumbling, and she was trapped in the center, hated by her own, distrusted by his. And yet, as the forest burned with war, one truth blazed brighter than all. If she ran, all would be lost. If she stood, she might yet change everything. Lyra's choice. The alien who thought she was ugly. Until a human saw her beauty. HFY story. The forest was fire and thunder. Red beams from human weapons tore through the night. Arrows of flame streaked from the villagers' bows. Screams filled the clearing as chaos swallowed peace. Lyra clutched the broken spear still in her hand. Her body trembled, but her heart burned hotter than fear. For so long she had believed she was nothing, ugly, flawed, unwanted. But now, in the heart of war, everyone's eyes turned toward her. Her people saw a traitor, the humans saw a stranger. And yet she knew, in this moment, she had to choose. Daniel's voice cut through the noise. "Lyra, listen," he shouted, his eyes locked on hers, steady, unshaken. "You are not weak. You're not worthless. You can stop this." She wanted to scream that she could not. She wanted to cry that she was only a broken girl. But deep inside, something answered. A whisper that had always been there, waiting. What if your flaws were never flaws at all? The beast's roar echoed in her memory. The way she had fought beside Daniel. The way her hands had not failed her. The way she had survived every cruel word, every mocking laugh, every lonely night. She was still standing. She had always been stronger than she believed. The elders shouted, "Strike the humans down." The soldiers barked, "Take the alien girl away." But Lyra raised her voice, louder than both. "Stop." For a moment, both sides froze. The girl they called ugly stood tall in the firelight, her eyes blazing. "Do you not see?" she cried. "If you fight, we all die. No one wins, no one lives." Her voice shook, but it carried through the clearing like a blade. The elders laughed bitterly. "What do you know, cursed child?" But Daniel stepped forward, his weapon lowered. "She knows more than all of you," he said, his voice fierce. "She is the only one who saw truth when the rest of you saw only fear." Lyra's chest tightened. She looked at the humans, then at her people, and then she remembered her body, the strange marks on her skin, the dull glow that never matched the others, the flaws that had made her outcast. What if they were not curses, but answers? The fire spread across the ground, licking at the roots of ancient trees. The humans shouted about retreat. The villagers screamed for blood. But Lyra knelt quickly, pressing her glowing hands to the soil. Something stirred. The ground responded to her touch. The faint light in her skin pulsed brighter, spreading across the moss like veins of silver. Everyone stared, stunned. The forest itself answered her. The flames bent, weakened, pulled into the soil. The smoke thinned, the chaos slowed. Her glow, once mocked, once hated, became a shield. Her so-called flaw had power. Power that no elder, no soldier, no villager could deny. Her voice rose again. "You called me ugly because I was different," she shouted. "But difference is not weakness. Difference is strength. I am not your curse. I am your protector." The villagers lowered their spears in shock. The humans lowered their weapons in awe. Even the elders stood silent, their mouths open, their pride crumbling. Daniel's eyes never left her. Pride burned in them, fierce and unshakable. "You see now," he said softly. "You were never broken, Lyra." Tears filled her eyes, but she did not look away. The girl who had once hidden in shadows now stood at the center of two worlds. And in that firelit clearing, she made her choice. "No more war," she declared. "If you want to strike, strike me first, but I will not let you destroy each other." The silence that followed was heavier than battle. The villagers' hands shook, the soldiers' voices died. Neither side could move. Neither side could deny her. For the first time, they all saw what Daniel had seen from the beginning. Not a cursed child, not an ugly girl, but someone extraordinary. The truth about beauty. The alien who thought she was ugly. Until a human saw her beauty. HFY story. The battle never came. The fire in the forest faded, swallowed by the silver glow that spread from Lyra's hands. The villagers stood frozen, their spears lowered, their eyes wide with disbelief. The human soldiers slowly lowered their weapons, their breaths heavy, their faces filled with awe. And there in the middle of the clearing, between two worlds, Lyra stood tall, her chest heaving, her body trembling, but her spirit unbroken. For the first time, she did not try to hide her glow. For the first time, she did not bow her head in shame. Her light shone across the forest floor, soft and steady. It was not the blinding perfection her people worshipped. It was not the harsh fire of human weapons. It was something else, something gentler, something true. The elders stepped forward, their voices shaking. What are you?" they whispered. Lyra lifted her head, her eyes firm. "I'm what you called ugly," she said. "I'm what you cast aside, what you try to break." Her voice grew stronger. "But my difference saved you tonight, and it will save you again." Silence stretched long and heavy. No one laughed. No one whispered. The word ugly no longer fit her. Even those who had spat it most cruelly could not speak it now. Daniel stepped forward, his boots pressing softly into the moss. He stopped before her, close enough that she could see the dirt on his skin, the weariness in his eyes. Yet when he looked at her, there was no fear, no doubt, no disgust. Only warmth, only pride, only something she had never dared to imagine. He touched his chest once more, then pointed to her. "Beautiful," he said. The translator echoed his word in her tongue. Lyra froze, her breath caught. Her hands shook as if the word itself carried more weight than any weapon. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "You do not know my people," they said. Daniel's voice cut through her fear, steady, certain. "They were wrong," he said. "Beauty is not sameness. Beauty is not perfection. Beauty is being seen as you are." Her chest ached. Her eyes burned with tears. She had heard the word ugly so many times, it had become her truth. But now, for the first time, someone spoke the opposite. Not in pity, not in mockery, but in belief. And somehow she believed too. The villagers watched, silent, their eyes filled with something new. Not hatred, not disgust, but wonder. The humans stood still, their weapons forgotten. The clearing no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt like a beginning. Daniel reached out slowly, not commanding, not forcing, only offering. Lyra's hand trembled, but she lifted it. Their fingers touched, alien and human, different in shape and color. But the touch was real, the touch was warm. And in that simple moment, a bridge stronger than any weapon was built. Lyra lifted her chin, her voice soft but unshaken. "I am not ugly," she whispered. The words felt strange, new, but they tasted like freedom. She said them again, louder. "I'm not ugly." Her glow pulsed brighter, as if her very soul answered her. Daniel's smile widened, and he nodded once. "No," he said, "you never were." The villagers lowered their heads, shame and awe mixing in their hearts. The humans stood straighter, as if they too understood they had witnessed something rare. The world had changed, not with fire, not with blood, but with a single truth. A girl who thought she was nothing had shown that she was more than everything they had believed. The night was quiet once more. The moons cast their silver light over the clearing. The smoke faded into the sky, the stars watching silently. And in the middle of it all stood Lyra. Not broken, not cursed, not ugly, but extraordinary, for in the end, she did not need perfection. She did not need approval from those who had cast her aside. All she needed was to see herself through new eyes. And those eyes, human eyes, had shown her the truth. The alien who thought she was ugly was beautiful all along. And a human was the first to see it.